Okay, another interpretation technique. Color and number, a very foundational technique. And we're talking about two little pages in the playing card oracles here. Two little pages well worth your time to read, easy to overlook, yet very key in this method of card reading. Pages 134 and 35, do take the time to read those. And we've already talked about color way back in one of the beginning videos called The Magic of Three. And we did a little immersion exercise, remember? So it would be a good time to look back at any keywords or associations you had when you looked at red and black. Or do the exercise again. It's a great little exercise. We've come a long way since the beginning of the workshop, and your associations may be different now. But this would be a good thing to put in your journal if you haven't already. And I've got some of my own associations for the colors red and black there on page 134. These are some basic meanings that I use in my own readings. Words on the left side there relate to the color black, pretty obviously, right? Words on the right side relate to the color red. And we see again here how red and black demonstrate these sort of opposing concepts that are so basic to our lives. Red and black are such archetypal colors for the way that we live. And so it's good to sort of commit these to memory. And, you know, we don't just throw these words around casually in readings. We want to choose the words that we use, but how do we know when to really tap into color correspondences in our readings? And how do we know which adjectives to use? So let's talk about that. Now, color is a great way to start your reading, right? It sort of hits you in the gut. Before you even break into any sort of analyzation, any memorized meanings that you may have had. Hold on one second. You know, color impacts you. And this on the screen is a very red spread. Already we're getting a message from the color red. So which red words to choose? You know, which descriptive words? Not all may apply. So I might look at my suits a little bit. Well, the Queen's in diamonds and the Jack is in hearts. So that essentially defines their relationship as a diamond heart combination, right? When they come together, it's a diamond heart experience, and we've already studied that suit combination. Remember? I think we termed it the one night stand. And certainly it's a very impulsive combination, right? And isn't impulse one of the words that we just looked at for the color red? So that's a word I could start with. And, you know, I see you could say something like, I see a relationship here between two people. You know, it's very impulsive. It's very exciting. You know, another red word. But there's some distance between these two people, right? I got 2 cards separating the 2 court cards just visually. And I've got a black card separating the 2 hot and heavy red cards. And it's interesting that the black card is in the heart position of the spread. So somebody's keeping it kind of cool when it comes to really taking the relationship to heart. And it could be the queen because she's closest to that card. I'm just playing around a little bit. But that's what card reading is. It's about play. But the black card does mitigate or cool down this red energy that's in the spread. So it's a way to look at this spread from a color point of view. And you could go on, of course, but let's stay focused on the color and let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is sort of the opposite situation, right? 3 out of 4 cards are black, and it hits you in the gut, doesn't it? It conveys a different feeling. It's much cooler, isn't it, than the last slide. It's recessive. It's more careful. But looking now at our cards, right? I might look at the cards a little before I start randomly choosing black words. And I'd probably look at my question too, for choosing words to describe the color black. But I'm noticing Fortuna in the bottom position there. And Fortuna is very playful. She's not one of these kind of serious black cards, which there are plenty of. Fortuna's more childlike. And the 8 of Hearts up there, the garden, is also about temptation, experimentation, those kind of things. These are spreads we've looked at before, but now looking at them from a color point of view is going to bring out other aspects of them. So that's why I'm using the same card spreads again. But I wouldn't say this person is particularly restrained, right? That's one of our black descriptive words. Would you? Not with Fortuna there in the foot position and the garden. But she is rather cool, isn't she? That's a word I might choose. There's 2 club cards there. Clubs being associated with the air element. She's a little detached, isn't she? She doesn't let people in so easily. And there are more things we could go into, but I think that's what I could say fairly decisively from looking at this spread from a color perspective, and then I would start to pick it apart a little bit. But again, I'm just going with that first impression I get from the color. So, you don't have to force yourself to read the color correspondences. It should play in real naturally to your readings if it pops into your mind. We have 2 different examples on the screen. The one on the right, all the red cards, screams red. And I'm feeling the red color, and it's going to come into my vocabulary, my thinking very naturally as I look at the suits and as I look at the card meanings, But I'm feeling this person's very outward directed, very active with 3 fire cards. Wow. You can barely tie this person down. Very honest, diamond cards being associated with fire, very direct in the way they express themselves. So all of that kind of stuff sort of naturally comes into my reading. And then cards on the left, I may not pull color correspondences in as the first way to approach the reading. I like how the black and the red are interspersed on there. It gives me a much more balanced feeling than the spread on the right. It's not good or bad, it's not better or worse, it's just more balanced. And if one of those diamond cards on the left was in the heart suit, we'd have a card in every suit, wouldn't we? It'd be the ultimate balance. So this person's approaching things in a much more even-keeled way, and I may bring that into my reading. But it's not exactly, slapping me in the face like the red is on the right side. So I just make a note. It feels pretty balanced, and then I might move on to suit combinations or the void in hearts, depending on what the question was. You see? Okay, let's look at another example. An extreme, right? It wants to be noticed. It's the first thing that hits you when you look at the cards. So don't overlook it. Put it into your words when something smacks you on the forehead like this. Wow, this is a super somber, serious spread. This person is very inwardly directed. This person has secrets. Okay? I can say that with confidence. And as I said the word secrets, as it was flying out of my mouth there, I noticed the Ace of Spades in the throat position, the speaking position of the spread. And what is the Ace of Spades all about? What are one of the potential correspondences for that card? Secrets. It's the card of secrets. There is something not being communicated here. This person is keeping everything inside themselves. Okay? A great way to break into the reading. You've already floored your client, right? You've already nailed the situation, and then you can look at individual card meanings to flesh it out, just like we did with the Ace of Spades. And everything that follows in the reading should go along with what you've already noticed from the color, right? We find a way to bring information together in a reading. And now I want to switch gears here while we're on this slide to looking at this same spread from a number perspective. Because this layout is not only an extreme from a color point of view, it's also extreme from a number point of view. So now I'm also getting the feeling that this person is very extreme, right? It's another word I can bring in because we have extreme of color and extremes in patterns of number. What is the number pattern? Look at the cards. We haven't talked about it yet. You may not have read those 2 pages, but pause the video if you need to. Look at this. See if you can see any number patterns. Okay, here's what I'm going to share with you. Every card is odd, right? Aces are the number 1, 9, 7, all odd numbers. And if you look on page 135, you'll see what odd numbers represent. They represent challenge, personal challenge, personal change, things in movement. Things are happening with this person. They're just keeping it all inside themselves. And another number pattern. 2 number patterns here, right? 2 aces, right? We have a repeating number. And when numbers repeat, it really brings out the message of that number. So you may want to go back to the introduction in the Playing Card Oracles book, or to the Magic of 3 again, and look at the meanings for the numbers, and specifically the ace. The ace is all about the self. It's the number 1, right? Remember that old song, 1 is the loneliest number. This person's lonely. This person's, as we say, very inwardly directed, not sharing with other people, keeping everything to his or herself. So yeah, and then I can look at the rest of the cards. I've got that heavy 9 of spades in the heart position. Something weighing really heavily on the heart of this person. And the other thing that shows extremes is sort of the swing between the ace and the 9. It's the full pendulum swing in the pips. So this is just a great spread to look at and pick apart. You could spend quite a bit of time with this spread. It's really fascinating from a Playing Card Oracle's point of view. There's a lot going on. Let's go on. Okay, so there's 3 things we're looking for when we're looking for number patterns. High and low cards, right? High numbers versus low numbers. Odd numbers, like we just had, versus even numbers. And repeating numbers when more than one of the same, more cards than one of the same number show up. So, you can look, it's just short in the Playing Card Oracles, but basically high numbers are high stakes, low numbers are a low investment of energy. Even you, the person asking the question, is not real invested in what the subject of the question is. It's just a very low investment of energy versus a high stakes situation with high numbers, okay? Odd and even cards we already talked about in the last slide. Odd numbers representing personal challenge. Even numbers representing solace from challenge, places of rest in our lives. Can be avoidance of challenge. Someone who's not growing in extreme situations. Repeating numbers, again, we just look at whatever that particular number is and we look for the meaning of it. And it becomes one of the messages in the reading. So let's look at another spread from the perspective of number. I'm not going to look at color now. I'm doing a different exercise. So I recommend doing this. Just lay 4 card spreads out one after another and look for number patterns. Okay? Lay 4 card spreads out. Look for color patterns. And don't complicate issues. If you just focus on one thing at a time and lay spreads out, it can be really helpful. So let's just look for number patterns. Let's see. The first number pattern was high and low. So I don't notice anything from that perspective. All the numbers are kind of in the middle, aren't they? That could be a message of its own. But we're going to pass that by because it's not shouting at us. How about odd and even? Ha ha. Yes, we do. What do we have here? Everything is even. Everything is even. So this person is in a place with this whatever question they've asked where they're very comfortable, right? They're not having to make decisions. They are, sort of relaxing into their place within things, even though that field of stones is sitting in the heart position, is weighing heavily on this person, no doubt. And yet they're sort of comfortable with it. They've sort of resigned themselves to it. They're not looking for change right now. Very interesting. So yeah, that's the color, or the number perspective, and then we could go into more, ways of looking at the spread through individual cards, etc. But the number gave us somewhere to start, didn't it? It was interesting in that last slide too that it was balanced from a color perspective. Again, not rocking the boat in any sort of way. Now, let's look at this spread. Obviously, it's shouting at us from a color perspective, but we're not doing color right now. Let's look at it just from a number perspective. High and low. No, we sort of have, a mishmash between high and low. How about odd and even? No, we have a balance between odd and even. How about any repeating numbers? No. So it's not standing out from a number perspective, but it certainly is from a color perspective. So I would not go into number interpretation, at least not from number patterns. I could go into number meanings of individual cards a bit and how those play into card meanings. But I'm not seeing anything from a number pattern. How about this spread? Let's go through our checklist. High and low. That's kind of interesting. We have one high card and 3 very low cards all in a row there. Let's check the rest of our number pattern possibilities. Odd and even, no, nothing standing out. And repeating numbers, no. But I am interested in the high and low part. And I'm interested in the fact that the one high card is also the only black card. That really makes it stand out, doesn't it? And it's at the top of my spread. So that card is really calling a lot of attention to itself, isn't it? Isn't it? Right? This person is very invested in the 9 of clubs. And remember, the 9 of clubs is Galahad, a very idealistic knight searching for nothing less than the Grail. So I have a feeling that this person is very idealistic in terms of the question they're asking in this area of their life. And nothing beneath it is really quite measuring up, is it? No. Right? Just sort of a low investment on the other levels of themselves. And we see the Three of Hearts sort of playing both sides of the fence, you know, maybe trying to live up to the high expectations of that Knight Galahad. So, you know, the card meanings very naturally start to get pulled in as you look at number meanings or patterns, and as you look at color patterns. It's very natural, and they should. That means you're on the right track. When things concur like that, you know, the reading starts to feel like a whirlpool very quickly, where things are starting to come together and all kinds of information are starting to connect to whatever story is beginning to unfold. And then we have this layout I wanted to show you. This is the photo I used for the homepage on the Playing Card Oracle School. You may recognize it. And I want to talk about it because there's a couple of interesting things going on here. First of all, you know, we notice that there are two cards in the top position of the spread. Now, how does that happen? It actually does happen in readings, and it can happen if the top card I'm turning over, if it sticks to the card underneath it. And certainly in a deck like the one pictured here, in an old deck with soggy cards that are, you know, have frayed edges and so forth, it's common for cards to stick together. And I choose not to struggle with that. I just let cards come together that want to be together. So that can account for two cards in a position of the spread. Another thing that could happen here, another reason for two cards in the top position. Sometimes, as I mentioned, I will turn the top card over, the present card, in a cat spread like this, right? You cut into the deck, you turn those four cards, but then I also often turn the card that's on the top of the first pile, right? The card that's on the top of the first pile. That was the card that was on top of the deck when I quit shuffling. It's the present moment. It has importance. So, you know, sometimes I'll just turn that top card over. And if in an instance like this, let's say I turned the present card over and it happened to be the King of Hearts, and I'd already turned my cat spread over, my four cards, and the top card happened to be the Queen of Hearts, well, there's an obvious pairing going on there, right? So I'd probably pick that King of Hearts up and just put him with his Queen over there. You know, they're coming together. I feel free to move cards around on my table. I do it all the time. So that's just me, but that's a way that cards can show up in the formation that we see here. I want to clarify that. But now let's look at this particular spread from a number point of view, since that's our current topic. And we have something interesting going on. We have high numbers here. You know, king and queen, you know, the highest that you can get. You know, court cards are high, even though they're not ace through 9. They're kind of in their own category. They're still the court. They're still elevated. They're high-numbered cards. And all of the cards here are court cards except for the ace. Now, is ace like a plunk in the bucket? Does it bring everything down there in the heart position? No. Ace is a very unique card. Ace can be high or low in many card games. And we can learn from card games for our card reading practice. You know, if there ever was a wild card in the regular playing card deck, it's the aces. And in an instance like this, where the ace is surrounded by these high-numbered cards, it elevates the status of an ace, you know? Ace becomes kind of a trump card, and it becomes like an energy source for the other cards. I talk about this in the Playing Card Oracles book in the introduction to the aces. You know, if you go back and check that out, aces are probably one of the most complex cards in the deck. But it's good to remember that they can be high or low, just like in games. And in this case, it's definitely high. It almost looks like a royal flush up here on the screen, doesn't it? So high stakes, right? High levels of involvement. Lots of people gathering around a situation, you know. And we talked about this. This similar kind of looking spread came up in the video where we were doing the exercise for combining courts and pips, with lots of court cards showing up around one pip card, right? And I likened this to lots of cooks in the kitchen, all trying to boil one pot of water, one situation with a lot of people involved. And it could be similar here. You know, the question asked is more about the personalities involved. It's more about the relationships of the people involved than anything that's really going on, right? And especially with an ace, you know, an ace is so nebulous in terms of situations. It's really potentials. So, you know, with the ace of hearts in the torso position like it is here, it almost looks like a child in the womb, doesn't it? Could be a pregnancy. That all these people are sort of getting involved with. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what this particular layout depicted. So, too much fun. I love all these layouts. So your homework, lay cards out, you know, over and over and over again. And you can play a game with yourself. Look at the cards just from a color perspective, you know, or just from a number perspective. Make notes, and be sure to journal. Journal, journal, journal. This is your meditation, is your journaling. It's a different way to get the information into your brain. And the next video's a fun exercise we'll do together, combining all of this information into your practice. So Thanks for watching.